She's testing you the moment you open your mouth, not consciously, instinctively. And here's what most men never realize. You usually fail her tests in the first 60 seconds without even knowing you were being evaluated. That's why some men are instantly respected, while others are quietly disqualified. Today, I'm going to show you the 3 Machiavellian laws that make you completely untestable. Not tricks, not lines, but shifts in how you show up that change how women respond to you. By the end of this, you'll understand why some men never get tested and why others never stop being tested. Every woman you meet is running invisible evaluations, not because she's manipulative, but because instinctively she needs to know, can this man be shaken? Does he need my approval? Can I emotionally control him? And here's the brutal truth. Most men fail before the conversation even warms up. They defend themselves, they over-explain, they seek validation without realizing it. And the moment you do that, the dynamic is set. Think about how fast attraction can disappear. One sentence, one reaction, one moment of insecurity. Not because you said the wrong words, but because you revealed something deeper about who you are under pressure. Attraction isn't built on what you claim, it's built on what you reveal when you're challenged. The first emotional reaction always exposes your real position in the hierarchy. Niccolo Machiavelli wrote The Prince in 1532. He was talking about political power, but what he accidentally revealed is something far deeper about human nature. People constantly test for weakness. They test for dependency. They test for whether you can be moved, pressured, or controlled. And buried in his work are 3 laws that apply directly to attraction. When you understand them, you don't pass her tests. She stops needing to test you at all. Let me tell you about Marcus. Good guy, solid job, decent looking. He matched with a woman on a dating app, and within 3 messages she said, "You seem boring. Prove me wrong." Marcus did what 90% of men do. He went into defense mode. He listed his hobbies, his travels, his achievements. He tried to convince her that he was interesting. She unmatched him 30 seconds later. Here's what Marcus didn't understand. She wasn't calling him boring. She was testing whether he needed her validation, and he failed. The moment you try to prove yourself, you've already lost. This is Machiavelli's first law. Never accept the frame of the test. When she challenges you, she isn't asking you to win. She's checking whether you bend to pressure, whether you need approval, whether you can be moved emotionally. If you accept her frame, you step into a one-down position. So what should Marcus have done? He could have said, "You're probably right," and changed the subject. He could have said, "Boring works for me," with 0 defensiveness. Or he could have ignored it entirely and continued the conversation. Each of those communicates the same thing. I don't need your approval.
And here's what actually happens when you stop defending yourself. She leans in emotionally. She starts qualifying herself. The dynamic flips. Instead of you proving your worth, she begins wondering, why didn't that move him? That uncertainty creates tension, and tension creates attraction. You'll see this pattern everywhere once you're aware of it. She says, "You're probably a player." You feel the urge to defend. The man who fails says, "No, I'm not like that. I'm actually really serious." The man who holds frame says, "Maybe," and keeps speaking as if nothing happened. One reveals need, the other reveals emotional independence. She says, "I don't usually go out with guys like you." Most men hear that as a challenge. They start explaining why they're different, why she should give them a chance. But a man who understands the first law simply responds, "That makes sense," and continues. He doesn't chase her approval. He lets his presence speak. And notice what happens right after. When you don't react emotionally, when you don't rush to correct her perception, she begins to lean forward. Her questions change. She starts asking about you instead of evaluating you. That's the moment the test ends and curiosity begins. This isn't about being cold or dismissive. It's about not allowing her judgment to define you. The moment her opinion of you becomes more important than your own, you've already surrendered leverage. You've told her without words that you need her validation more than she needs yours. Now let's move to the second law. This is the one most men intellectually understand, but almost never embody. Need isn't wanting. Need isn't desire. Need is when your emotional state depends on getting a specific outcome from her. When you need her response, her validation, her choice, you hand her a remote control to your emotions, and women sense that instantly. Not because they're cruel, but because they are biologically wired to detect emotional instability in the men around them. I watched this play out at a networking event. Two men, same woman. The first guy tried too hard. He laughed too much, leaned in too close, asked questions with this underlying need for approval. You could feel that he wanted something from her. She stayed polite but distant. Her body language never fully opened. She never invested emotionally. The second guy was friendly, calm, unattached. When the conversation paused, he was comfortable with silence. When she said she had to talk to someone else, he said, "Cool, catch you later," and actually meant it. No pressure, no chase, no emotional grasping. 20 minutes later, guess which one she came back to find? This is Machiavelli's second law. The man who needs nothing cannot be controlled. The moment you stop needing the outcome, your value increases. Not because you're playing hard to get, but because you're no longer coming from scarcity.
She says, "I'm really busy this week," testing if you'll beg for time. "I don't know if this is a good idea," testing if you'll convince. "My ex just texted me," testing if you'll get jealous. The response of a man who needs nothing is simple. "No worries, do what feels right." "Fair enough. Hope you handle that well." No pressure, no performance. Here's what most men don't expect. When you remove need, she starts investing. She checks back in. She becomes more emotionally engaged. She feels the absence of control. Not because you manipulated her, but because you stopped handing her your emotional leverage. You'll even notice this after dates. The man who sends long follow-up messages asking if everything was okay, if she had fun, if she wants to see him again, usually gets silence. The man who simply says, "Good seeing you," and goes back to his life often gets the message, "I had a great time too. When are you free again?" One asks for reassurance, the other lets attraction breathe. But here's the uncomfortable part. You cannot fake this. Women are exceptionally good at detecting emotional incongruence. If you say the right words, but underneath you're still desperate for a specific outcome, your tone, your timing, your body language will betray you. The energy underneath your words always speaks louder than the words themselves. The only way to embody this law is to build a life where a woman is an addition, not a solution. Purpose, direction, standards, self-respect. When those are real, not imagined, outcome independence becomes natural. Think about negotiation. When you walk into a deal needing it to work, you accept bad terms. When you can walk away, power shifts automatically. Attraction operates on the same psychological mechanics. Now let's move to the third law. This is where everything locks into place. Women test because words are unreliable. Anyone can say they're confident. Anyone can claim they're interesting. Anyone can promise consistency. Tests exist to see if your behavior matches your image. So Machiavelli's third law is this: never explain your value, demonstrate it. I know a guy named David. He never talks about his accomplishments, never advertises his life. But when you're around him, you notice how calmly he handles problems. You notice how others naturally defer to him. You notice how his stories emerge without him trying to impress. Women don't test him, they don't need to. His behavior already answers every question. She says, "I love live music." The weak man says, "Oh yeah, I love it too. I go all the time. I know all the best places." He's making claims. The strong man says, "There's a great show Thursday at the Blue Room if you're free." And then he follows through. One talks about value, the other demonstrates it. This principle applies everywhere. When she says, "Are you always this confident?" the weak man explains why he is. The strong man simply continues behaving with quiet certainty. When she says, "You probably say that to all the girls," the weak man defends himself. The strong man lets his consistency over time answer the question. And here's a detail most men miss. Demonstrating value doesn't mean trying to impress. It means letting your life naturally reveal who you are, how you handle pressure, how you move through discomfort, how you treat others, how you keep your word. Over time, these things speak louder than anything you could ever say.
When your actions speak, tests disappear, respect increases, attraction stabilizes because there's nothing left to verify. Your behavior becomes your resume. And this is the part most men never hear. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be rich. You don't need to be famous. You need to be congruent. Your words, your actions, and your emotional state must tell the same story. When they do, there is nothing left to test. Here's the pattern. Law 1. You stop accepting her frame and you no longer get shaken. Law 2. You stop needing the outcome and you remove emotional leverage. Law 3. You stop talking about value and start demonstrating it, and tests become irrelevant. This isn't about manipulating women. It's about becoming the kind of man whose presence answers questions before they're asked, a man who is calm under pressure, a man who does not need validation, a man whose life speaks louder than his mouth. Marcus eventually learned this. 6 months later, when a woman said, "You seem boring," he replied, "Might be," and continued the conversation without a flicker of defensiveness. She didn't pull away, she leaned in. They've been dating for 3 months. The truth is uncomfortable. Most men fail tests because their lives actually are incongruent, needy, and reactive. The tests don't create the weakness, they reveal it. The solution isn't better responses, it isn't memorizing lines, it isn't pretending to be indifferent, it's becoming untestable. So, tell me in the comments, which law do you struggle with most? Is it accepting her frame? Is it neediness? Is it talking instead of demonstrating? And if this changed how you see attraction, subscribe, because the next video breaks down why most advice about confidence is completely backwards. Remember this, you don't pass her tests by having the perfect response. You pass them by becoming the man who doesn't need to.